Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 19th, 2023 at approximately 7:21 p.m. PST. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools that I offer are the same ones I personally use, and the philosophies I talk about, the philosophies of life I talk about, are the same ones I personally live by. Now, this particular issue is about my actually figuring out how to talk a little more clearly, how to get my diction straight. Okay, so I chose the Yldrbacian Chronicles saga simply because I'm the one that wrote it. Okay, and therefore, matter of fact, I'm not going to do that quite yet. It is 7:21. So, quite frankly, how you doing there, Adam? Glad you could join us. I'm going to start, even if I get in early, I'm going to wait till 7:30 to actually start reading. Okay, but the reality of it is, I wrote this story itself when I wrote the actual storyline back in grade 10 for an English project. Okay, now what I went and did with it. Oh, fantastic. How old's your daughter there, Adam? If you don't mind me asking. Hey, Angels, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, just a tiny little thing. The Mr. Dreamcatcher. When I wrote that, I was tired of reading the same Dr. Seuss, Berenstain Bears for my child, for my eldest. And what happened was I just finally just rattled I rattled Mr. Dreamcatcher right off the top of my head when he was about a year and a half, 2 years old. And from that point until he was about a month before he turned 8, he wouldn't go to bed if he didn't hear that story. Okay, so of course I usually ran and recited it to him, but there came a time when I had to leave the house, when I had to go away for a couple of weekends, in a row. So I had to write it out so that his mother could read it. Net result, it's in print today. Now, is it a blockbuster? You get the chance to figure that one out. Okay. I was quite happy with it, and because of the fact that I had to write it to start with. Hey, Nightmare, how you doing? Glad you could join us. By the way, if she's only 10 weeks old, I'm guessing you're not getting to sleep the night through yet. How you doing there, Shadow? Oh, by the way, Shadow, this one's for you. I don't actually have the figures there right now, but this is the next one I'll be doing. This is a player character, one of the other gamers that I'm going to be painting for. When I come on tomorrow, I'm going to make a point. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a note of that right this second. Yep, gravity works. Make a note of this right this second for tomorrow. Is the figures for our next game. Anyway, something to know about the Yldrbacian Chronicles. All of the main characters are they were literally designed and played by other gamers. Okay, so these guys are based on, the primary characters are based on personalities that the other players built. The characters that you run into, virtually all of the characters that you run into through the stories, I've run into people like them, so they're based on people I've met or situations I've personally gone through. That's just the way that it came about. So the reality is, the Birth of the Wolf Pack is actually the 10th it's the 10th book in the saga. It just happens to come out first. Okay. But I did tie the whole 9 yards together. Now, the neat little side effect was this particular little book here. Okay. Races of the Worlds. In the Yldrbacian Chronicles, you'll run into various different races that you find out about their personalities, the different ways they interact. The races of the worlds is the data of the real races that I've personally run into. So when I talk about it being all interlocked, I'm really not kidding. Okay. And of course, there's a couple of extra stories I haven't written yet, not the least of which, like I've got all of the entire saga running, and that's going to be a drawn out period. Now, with that in mind, what time are we? 26. Like I said, even when I'm in here early, I am going to be starting at 7:30. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I will tell you this much. I won't be answering questions prior to finishing, but after I'm finished, absolutely, if you've got questions, absolutely ask. Hey, Gordana, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And Nightmare, I don't think I said hello, but good evening. I'm glad you could join us again. So what I'm looking at is I'm aiming at getting into more of the public speaking, whether it means going on other people's channels to talk about my books or to talk about the UFOs. That's up to you guys, or for that matter, to talk about the religious hiccups that we've got. Okay. Where are we here? I did not actually do this of all the silly things in the world. So we have to do this to see if we can get it so I can actually read what I'm looking at. Talk about running behind. Well, isn't it nice to know that certain things still stay the same way? Go there and we go there. And that should bring us up pretty quick. And it's well, shut that off. So from hey Christine, glad you could join us. Like I said, now I don't know how long I'll be on after this. Okay, but I will come back and see what I can do about finding any questions that people have once I'm done reading. The idea here is real simple. Figure out how to read so I can go on other people's talks on other people's channels or in public and speak a little more clearly, stay a little more focused, and quite frankly, improve my diction so people can actually understand what I'm saying. Okay. Now, that said, okay, yeah, I'm basically killing time, so to speak, because of the fact that I want to start this, and I'm going to start this at, at 7:30. Let me scan all the way to the back. And there we have it. Now, like I said, this book is already in print. That's the end of an epic. That's the wrong one. It is in print too. That's the second one, but that'll be about a month down the road. Clearly, this is already in print. Okay. Now, there we go. So, as you can see, the story itself, this is essentially the original story. Now, the only difference between this and the story I wrote to start with is that I've actually not put in actual numbers. So, bear with me. This is a bit of this is what I was told is called an epic poem. Okay. So, Yldrbac, the story. After eons of creating, Ivana became bored with wandering homeless and formless. Thus it was that she decided to create a new planet. For many years, Ivana labored in secret, weaving a world from the endless abyss of space. Many universal years later, Lindell found the place where she was working. When he beheld the beauty that Ivana had wrought out of the blackness of space, he was so impressed by it that he offered his assistance. With this help and guidance, Ivana finished her task much sooner than she had anticipated. Once the basic planet was completed, they began to add color to it. At first, they divided the land with water. Then, beginning with simple plants, they worked their way to the creation of great forests and vast plains. These were made lush and green by the presence of water, which was supplied through many channels carved by Lindell on the surface of the globe. Such was the way that the 13th planet was created in the Dandegron galaxy. For the next several galactic millennia, Ivana and Lindell worked and perfected their sphere. Upon completion, they decided that intelligent life, other than themselves, should live upon Ernath, as they called their planet, to fully enjoy it. For many years, they labored together, devising the forms they wished to inhabit. These they called Elfit, meaning earth or world, because the forms were forged from the very soil of Ernath. At last, the time was right to reveal their work, so Ivana and Lindell called together as many spirits as they could gather, and brought them to their paradise, saying, "Those of you that wish to remain here for all eternity may come with us to the place where your bodies sleep." There was a great murmur at this. Then slowly, one by one, they started to come forward, rapidly increasing in numbers. At the head of this congregation were Kintas, TL, and Kieslak. Lindell and Ivana led the spirits to a hidden valley in the mountains of Kor, where the bodies were revealed. After choosing a frame, a spirit entered it through the mouth to give it life. Then, within moments, everyone rose and gathered in the center of the valley to attend a meeting, because it was well known that the group was too large to live as one. "We must divide this group in order to exist in peace," declared Ivana, "for there is insufficient room in this valley for a flock of such size. Therefore, we need volunteers to lead some of us into the world, beyond the mountains." The message passed throughout the world, and someone requested that Kintas lead one group. Another suggested that TL guide a second. Then Kieslak boomed, "I will command the remnants of this host." Finally, after hours of discussion, the elves, as they called themselves, formed 4 divisions. Yvonne and Lindell kept their group in the hidden valley. Kintas led some east to the open plains of Lyra. TL went west, past the Laru Mountains, with others, while Kieslak drove the remainder south to the borders of the land. For eons, the elves multiplied and divided, thus populating Ernath. However, this caused problems, for Kieslak, had great power and forced his subjects to battle their kin to obtain lands of vast size. So ended the first age of the world. As time elapsed, Kieslak's lands grew larger and stretched further and further in all directions. As he forced his way north, he used his power to conquer all that he could that stood in his way. Those that he could not enslave, he cruelly put to death. As the population of free elves, so they now called themselves, diminished, Yvonne and Lindell searched for a new life form of sturdy build and deadly skill in war, which was inevitable. Many years passed while they experimented. Finally, Lindell devised a body that was vigorous and enduring. He created them in the deep caves of Kor and called them dwarves, meaning the warriors, for this was their purpose. When the dwarves awoke, they were so enthralled by the caves that they immediately began to plan ways of carving vast caverns beneath the mountains. As Lindell began his work, Ivana went west to the Laru Mountains. She labored there until she had created a group of very short creatures, which she named the Yldrbac, meaning the vanished. For as soon as they awakened, they vanished behind rocks and other such things. They disappeared so rapidly that Ivana only managed to catch one, whom she named Perrin, the turtle. By the time these new races had been formed, Kieslak had constructed the caverns of Delmar. in which he trapped and crossbred many forms of life, using his extensive knowledge of the black arts to accomplish normally impossible hybrids. The creatures that Kieslak captured were forced to either work in the deep mines of Del Mar or feed or be fed to his hideous hybrid creations. Ever since Kieslak's disappearance, the Yldrbaci had flourished in the Laru Mountains. The dwarves in their prime had delved great holes in the mountains of the world and cut the grand fire gems out of the earth. And the elves in all parts of the world had multiplied. Then one night, Kieslak, lusting for the fire gems, opened the massive doors of Del Mar and sent his beasts forth to bring the gems to him out of his pit. Out of his pits came thousands of various creatures, which bore down upon the free people of the world. Most of the creatures set upon by Kieslak's forest fled far and wide in fear. However, there were a few small bands that did not flee, but withstood the evil hordes. For 300 years, monsters dominated Ernath. They searched for elves, dwarves, and Yldrbaci, and either slew them or enslaved them for Kieslak's use in Del Mar. The most important being that was captured for Kieslak was Menzak, whom Kieslak liked so much that he claimed him as his heir and raised him like a son. In time, Kieslak's armies were able to wrest the fire gems from their rightful places in the halls of the dwarves of the mountains of Kor. Throughout this period of time, messages were passed from Ivana and Lindell to the remaining free peoples, requesting weaponry and armor to be made for the coming battle. Thus it was that the dwarven smiths and the elven fletchers worked late into the nights making armor and weaponry, while the Yldrbaci across the land prepared food for the battlefield. Then one spring morning, Kieslak lowered the drawbridge of Del Mar and released his armies, which flowed over the land, killing everything in their path. They did not worship Kieslak. As the armies poured through the plains of Sontas, Tiel's elves burst from the Napura forest and tore them asunder. Those that retreated towards the Laru Mountains met the sudden onslaught of the Yldrbaci. Led by Perrin the Turtle, the rest were forced back to the south. The armies that entered the plains of Lyra near the Bribandar Mountains were attacked from the north by dwarves and other forms of life. Those that returned to Kieslak were trembling in fear and jabbering of the terrible silver sword of Kor. Some of the armies forced their way north into the Klikan forest, where they were scattered and slain. Many were the deaths of the Battle of Dissension, which lasted for 5,000 years, in which time several great warriors and heroes rose and fell. The war was finally ended with the free creatures triumphant, and Ivan and Lindell becoming one. Lindana. Kieslak was slain, but the heir Menzak survived in the deepest pits of Del Mar. Thus ended the second age of the world. For many years following the Battle of Dissension, there was distrust amongst all of the free people. Slowly, the ancient trust returned, but never regained the peace of the beginning. For there were many of Menzak's spies roaming the world. Skirmishes and battles often arose during the New Age, and many more good creatures disappeared. As time passed, creatures became larger and fiercer. Thus, the age of dinosaurs came to be. The world was tormented by wars until a massive eruption originating above the sky impacted upon the ground, causing the age of dinosaurs and the wars to come to an end, and the age of mammals to begin. Gradually, the battles worsened yet again, and the population of elves became greatly reduced. As the last attempt for help, the Grey Elves, since they lacked the skill and knowledge of their forefathers, used apes as a basis for the construction of a new race called human. After many failures, they completed their new race Then, in a tidal wave of fury, Manzak opened the new gates of Delmar and sent his vast armies forth into battle. The battle raged for only 3,000 years, but caused major changes in the world. The downfall of the Elvish, Dwarvish, and Yldrbacian cities and empires, and eventually led to man's rise to power. When the battle ended, the ancient races had been almost completely obliterated. Those that survived hid in the mountainous dwarven cities, no matter what their race. Thus, the battle was henceforth called the Battle of Doom. At last, the age of man was upon the world. During this age, man created great machines of war and enormous jungles of stone. For many thousands of years, man had dominion over the world. Then a new thought came upon the long-forgotten races of elves, dwarves, and Yldrbaci, and they prepared for yet another battle. And that is where the original story came to an end. Now, the birth of the wolf pack, because I had been gaming, I'd been playing D&D, Aftermath, Space Opera, Star Frontiers, and a number of others. Okay, I had so much fun with the gaming crew that I was with, not only in the gaming world itself, but as just people were, as just friends. So what ended up happening was I've got to record some of what we went through. All of the primary characters in the Birth of the Wolf Pack are built by those original gamers. Okay, and as I said earlier, most of the characters that come up that you run into in the annals of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, I either ran into people that these guys remind me of, so they were patterned after them, or they are events that I personally went through. Okay, now, like I said, I was going to read the story and just the foreword itself. Okay, so this is the foreword of The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Okay, what started out as a simple adventure spanning 2 or 3 books, or possibly 3 books, written by a gamer for gamers, has evolved into so much more. This story, with many of the truths I personally see contained within it, journeys over the life of this planet through the course of 12 books, broken into 4 trilogies with a compendium. This is a guide to illuminate a different path for new beginnings, a complicated path and passage from the concept and birth of the planet through 5 distinct ages, culminating in the birth of a 6th. Beginning with the apparent chaos of an area in space with no functional form, we journey through the evolution of the planet and the rise and fall of many civilizations. We endeavor to demonstrate a way to conceptualize the unification of science, religion, civilization, and nature, all in one place, all at one time. Join us on an expedition from the origin of this planet through many of its trials and tribulations. Meet several of the various races as they evolve here, sometimes with assistance as the planet forms to become a place of interest to the area and peoples around it. Share in the tragedies as well as the triumphs of a core of families in each age of the story. Witness the changes that take place over time as people from various races come together through the generations to find a way to coexist until peace is finally attained for virtually all peoples. Discover the many facets of creation, exploration, and evolution as you experience the developing history of one group of peoples drawn inexorably together through many lifetimes until they really can finally reconvene with each other in the not-too-distant future. Witness the rise and fall of civilizations on this planet as the peoples learn of love and fear in their many forms, and the outcome of following either path. As the truth is slowly yet relentlessly revealed to you and the characters in this tale, through their combined journey, they finally come together as one people, comprised of many races, to eventually find their way to return to paradise, by any name, back to true multi-universal peace. And that, folks, is what I actually came online here to do. Like I said, I do intend on improving my reading, improving my diction and the fluidity of it. Now, I'm just going to scan up here, but thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. Okay, just going back. And who have I missed? Okay. Okay, just looking at the comments for half a second. I should actually be looking up here because that would make more sense. Now, I remember seeing Gordana come in. Eric, how you doing? Glad you managed to join us. Oh, there you go. I'm glad you got back too. Now, thank you so much, YJ. I really appreciate it. Picking them up is the easy part. Okay, and let's see if I've got that. I really do appreciate that there, Adam. Now, where are we here? That little piece there. Of course, as far as picking these stories up, that's the easy part. Because all you got to do, if you're looking for my webpage, which shows all of the other ones. Whoop, don't want to do that. It shows all of the books I've written. Okay. This will give you a little bit more information. So that's the actual website. And this is the email that I use at PayPal to get to it. To get any money to me. Now, of course, the reality is, if you're in Canada, okay, I do take email transfer from this same email. Okay. And that's how that all fits. Now, that said, thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate it. Like I said, if you've got questions at this point, I'm quite open to them. The whole idea here is simply to get used to the idea of speaking a little more clearly and staying focused. Fortunately, I didn't actually have a phone or a messenger call come in, which I've had that happen. You guys have heard it happen. That's not bad. Roughly a 20-minute run. That's why I said I wasn't certain how long it was going to take. But the idea from my standpoint is simple. The way I figure it, I spent 5 years leaving things sit back. But this is the culmination of a life's work, if you will. Which is why. Now, the neat part about it, that's technically, that's literally book 10. Well, yeah, I hold that up so nobody can see it. That's a brilliant idea. This is literally book 10 in the saga. Okay. Now, as I said, there are 12 books. Book 10 is already written. The reason I did that is because when I started writing The Birth of the Wolf Pack, I literally was looking at it going, okay, I can do this to really, really memorialize the enjoyment I had with this particular group of gamers. Not only the characters, but the gamers themselves. Okay. Now that works out, the reality is, just for you guys those of you that are interested, I will tell you this. The books themselves are only actually $40. The reason they're more expensive on the website is because, frankly, I cannot afford to pick up the cost of shipping at the same time. That's just the reality of it. So I am in the process of trying to figure out a way of getting distribution points for them. The people that I paid a fortune for turned around and didn't do what they were supposed to, frankly. But from my standpoint, boils down to this. I wrote The Birth of the Wolfpack to memorialize the gaming time. Okay, but when there was a girlfriend I was with that took a look at the storyline, right, and I was starting to write The Birth of the Wolfpack, he's starting to put it in solid form, and she looks at me and she goes, that fits right beautifully after the story ends, after the fall of mankind. Right. So I went, okay, that's great. So time I was looking, okay, write the Wolfpack. And the reality behind it is, when I started writing it, I didn't know where it was going. I started it off in Casey's. Okay. And we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But in Casey's, it starts off in Casey's. It was designed, I'm a gamer, so it was written by a gamer for gamers. Okay, so we started it off in a bar. I had no idea where it was going to go. And about 3 chapters before the end of it, I realized I needed to tie it off. So I tied it off, knowing I now had a sequel to do. And I figured at the beginning I probably was going to have a prequel. Then this girlfriend turned around and says it tags in right beautifully there. So I'm going, okay. So we bring it forward, get to the end of the saga. Now, the reason for 12 is because 12 in universal numerology is the number of ultimate wisdom. Okay. And if you look at any of the self-help programs, all the really good ones are 12-step. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons for it. So I put together 4 trilogies to handle the big section. Now, this one is post-apocalyptic. Okay. But at the end, you'll have to see what comes at the end of book 12. But I figured out a way to tie it around to lead back to the beginning. Okay, so it all ties together nicely, at least in my opinion. Okay, it's all interlinked. You've got flashbacks, and you've got foreshadowings that come up in the various books. Okay, there's all sorts of things that show up, including discussions of past life, reincarnation, what happens with life after death, the off-worlders, the ancient races. All of it comes in, as well as periods of hyper-technology. Okay, so I started putting it together, and next thing I knew, because when I talked to my artist in England, okay, he looked at it and he goes, okay, I can work with this, but to make these books actually interlock, to make the back pages fit, okay, in one picture, okay, he asked me to make them all essentially the same, in the same size. So, and the other thing you look at here is when you line them all up, okay, there is a solid picture that is the whole spine wide. So these books are roughly 400 pages-ish in length. Okay, that's where I'm starting things there. So I mean, all in all, it all ties together quite solidly from that end. Now that's how it came about. But here's the funny little kicker that really created an interesting problem, or real interesting bonus. Okay, when I was writing these, I already had the races being written in The Birth of the Wolfpack. Okay, where there are all kinds of interactions happening. Okay, I had all kinds of interactions already occurring. And then it dawned on me, because I got into doing the discussions, like these are all people I already knew, the races I'm referring to. Then I got drawn into the option with Dave on Spaced Out Radio, and the number of races I started revealing to people all of a sudden produced this. Okay, now this book was an accident in a sense. Okay, everybody was asking so many questions, And so many people on Spaced Out Radio asked me to put a book together with the various races. Okay. So I did that. But what I found was this. Okay. The Races of the World covers the more, it actually covers it's a reference manual covering the data around the races. But in here, the different races, you start to find out how they interact, what their social circle is, and what their actual social structure is like, how they get along and or don't get along with each other and the other races around them. Okay, on top of those books, now, of course, this one's got 59 races. Okay, the second volume already has more than 40. Okay, now, no, all of the races are not covered in the Yldrbacian Chronicles. But what I am covering in here are things like the information on twin flames, on your soulmates, on life after death, reincarnation, 0 point energy, true magic. Okay, now it was once said, and I forget who it was that said it. Okay, that when you push technology far enough, there becomes little difference between it and magic. Okay, so I took all of that and put it under one roof. Okay, now you're going to have to figure out, the story itself locks back and forth. Okay, but the next, I guess, 3 months, because it just dawned on me, there's something I've got to add in here, but I will get to it. But these books, like I said, they are a life's work. Okay, so I figure it's time to do something with it. But that's how that's sitting. The nice little part. Now, I was about to say there, Adam, by the time you get that done, I may have book 12 finished. Don't hold your breath on it unless your paydays are like months apart. I know I'm late getting the books out, the ones I had in mind. I could go into all sorts of things there. But the funny thing with the birth of the wolf pack, oh, by the way, if you take a look, now I'll show you a couple of things here. One, this story, when I handed the story to my artist in England, okay, I called it The Birth of the Wolf Pack. This scene, and I forget offhand myself, this scene did not exist when I handed him the artwork. When I handed him the whole, when I handed him the story. He came back to me with this idea of putting the wolves in the front. So once he came back to me with that, this scene was actually written into the story. Do not ask me what chapter I put it in. I may know the story, but that doesn't mean I've got an eidetic memory. Okay, so in this scene didn't exist, but here's the other neat little part. On the back, okay, this here is Jeremiah Wollstrand. Okay, this here is another chap you'll meet. This is Wilhelm Schunter, and this is Tanya Jan Scott. Now, both of these characters, this is the one I personally built. These two are ones that the other gamers built. Okay, and they are an amalgamation of the characters they built and the people themselves. Okay, based on what I went through, they were patterned after them. Okay, most of the characters you run into are done the same way, or they are, many of the characters that you'll run into are based on characters that were literally played by either myself or somebody else. Okay, and yes, if you look at the front, of the book, okay, you'll find right in the front end, it's saying, and you can't read it from there, but this book is dedicated to gamers everywhere. Okay, meaning, like I said, I wrote it as a gamer for gamers. There's one aspect I never included in this. Okay, there are no adult-oriented scenes from the standpoint of relationships. Okay, there are, however, some pretty graphic and brutal combat scenes that are choreographed as best as I could. So would I give it to an 8-year-old to read this? Honestly, probably not. I mean, that's up to you. There's nothing wrong with it in my eyes. And many of the gamers I've played with have been younger gamers. As a matter of fact, the second crew averaged 14 years. The second crew of gamers I played with averaged about 14 years. Right? Because gamers themselves range from 8 to 80. Now, the other thing, and I don't know, in all fairness, if it's in the Birth of the Wolf Pack. I wonder if I've got that open. Birth of the Wolf Pack. There. I'm just going to bring this up here. What I've done is brought up the digital copy to see if it is actually in the Yldrbac in book 12, which I think it is. There we are. Whoa, that's earlier than I thought. Quite seriously, guys, on the first time the gamers are actually mentioned, and I'm talking gamers, these guys are literally playing Dungeons and Dragons or a variation thereof in the middle of this world that's come apart. Okay, they show up before the midpoint of the book. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us there, Shadow. I would love it if you could, like I said, I'm going to be passing this on as best I can. Hope you survived the game. What do we got here? Gaming, I have to get ready for my online game of Traveler. Oh, nice. YouTube channel, well, can't read that, so let's minimize that. YouTube channel, 28mm RPG. Absolutely, go have fun there, Shadow. And like I said, this book is written for gamers. Okay, now I understand most gamers today don't read as much as the ones that used to. But the reality of it for me was this was a way to combine my life with my passion, if you will. Net result, a lifelong journey. Okay, but like I said, that's why I came on. Now, if anybody's got any questions, absolutely fire away. Okay, I'm not exactly going very far, but I do have things that I'm going to end up doing. I certainly wasn't planning on being on, I wasn't planning on being on here for 3 or 4 hours. Too many other things I got to do, not the least of which is writing. But that is now the next one. What is it? Next Sunday is when I'll do the next step. And where is it? Next step. Oh, that's the other thing. And there is a letter that I do want to read to you before I do the intro. Okay. So next week I'll be back here at the same time after the open floor. Okay. And we'll be reading the letter and the intro. Okay. So realistically, for the next 3 months of Sundays, I've got it laid out that I'm going to be back working on this side of it. But that said, if you've got questions, absolutely ask away. Now, with that in mind, guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming and actually sharing this with me. Really do appreciate it. Tell you the support I get. I was not expecting this many people at all to show up. But that being said, I will be back again. Tomorrow's Monday, so I will be back with my regular show. Okay, with my regular stream starting at 4:30 tomorrow. And tomorrow is, what am I doing tomorrow? That's an excellent question. Monday, we are going to deal, tomorrow, in other words, we're going to be dealing with the law of attraction. Okay. And yes, we cover all kinds of things on that whole side of it. Okay. The Yldrbacian Chronicles is simply a way of linking all of it in one place in a very different fashion. But hey, people learn in different ways. In any event, guys, thanks so much for joining me. And absolutely, if you've got questions, doesn't matter what stream we're working on, if you've got questions in any topic, absolutely put them into the stream. Christine, I did not see you come in, or did you just come in now? Just for future reference, Christine, I will be doing this the next 3 months anyway, and we'll see what happens from there. I will be going through this. Oh, okay. I will be going through, I've got a certain pattern laid out. You're more than welcome, Christine. I've got a pattern laid out for a number of issues and for a number of shows for the next 3 months. But I am going to call it night tonight as far as this side of it goes. So thank you so much for joining me, people. I really do appreciate the support and the encouragement. And that said, I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.